money into local charities.
All right. Sorry, John, but we are live. Yes.
Finally!
Yes.
Are you sure? Are you sure?
Scuddly Bob Howdy. Yes, we are live.
Thank goodness.
Welcome to episode 249. That's a 2, and then 2 more after that equals 4, and then 5 more after that equals 9. Episode 249 of An American Werewolf. That is me, to quote Hugo Weaving. Me. In the house tonight, we've got Eric from Hey Internet Eric here.
Woo!
What's happening, man?
Hey, glad to be back, dude.
Yeah, dude, it's been a few weeks. It's good to have you back on.
Especially
And
after the last one I was on. Yeah, we definitely have a better one to talk about tonight.
What was the last one you were on for?
Blade Trinity.
Oh, no.
Oh, man, I actually am upset I missed that one.
I can only apologize.
I'm sorry,
And
Triple
we've
A
got-
for puppies.
We've got John K. Alvarez, just burnt, baby. All right. So,
Just burnt,
he's been tossed out of a few windows from time to time. It happens,
Oh,
yeah. What are you going to do?
And once or twice I leapt out on my own.
Yeah.
Great Escape, I believe it was called.
So we are continuing our Halloween theme of ghost stories and haunted houses. And there are lots of, there are actually quite a catalog of quite a few films that would be easy enough to watch that, fill the criteria here.
Mm-hmm.
But, bringing Julia back last week for the first time in forever, we had a really good discussion from The Haunting, which is from like 1963. And I'm like, you know what? There's a movie I haven't seen since I was a little kid that scared the living shit out of me because it showed up when I was about 76. So I was about 7 and would have seen this. And so it scared the living daylights out of me.
Yep.
And that's called Dan Curtis's Burnt Offerings. And so
That's
I
right.
said, let's give this a shot. It's available on Tubi. It's available on YouTube, I think, for free. Let's watch it and see what's going to happen. And here we are. So if you guys are ready, shall we get it going?
Yeah.
Let us go.
Boogie Woogie. So this movie packs a lot of star power. But before we get into that, let's talk a little bit about Dan Curtis. This was his only full feature-length film that he ever directed. You usually see him, and if you're not familiar with the name, he's very closely associated with, excuse me, I'm trying to get rid of this damn whatever I have, with television programs and horror classics like Dark Shadows. And if you know me, I'm a huge Dark Shadows fan. The old Barnabas Collins, he's quite a villain. But he was also heavily involved with Kolchak, the Night Stalker. So you're talking about some real television series horror, late 60s, early 70s. This is the time of movies like Donner's The Omen, the Amityville Horror, films like, it could be like a precursor to The Shining, although that's a King original, sort of story there. But there are a lot of parallels
Right.
I could see in The Shining with this.
Mm-hmm.
I thought perhaps
Absolutely.
I saw even a thread or two of the others in here, but I don't want to reach too far.
Mm-hmm.
I was getting some vibes of The Changeling while I was watching this.
little bit.
Sure. Yeah, The Changeling. Yeah, not a problem. We certainly enjoyed talking about that back in the day. Let's go around with you guys. Let's start with John this time.
Okay.
What did you think? Because this is available on Tubi. Watch it for yourself. This is the Halloween season. What did you think of Dan Curtis's Burnt Offerings? Quick summary.
Now, when I mentioned last week when I was with you and Julia, real fast, I saw this back in the days of drive-in movie theaters. I
Sure.
saw this in a drive-in, sitting in a station wagon, which is funny because I forgot they were driving a station wagon.
Mhm.
And then with the thing that goes in your window, wasn't even the
Yeah.
AM radio days.
Yeah.
And it scared the hell out of me. I was about 11, and I was like, this really did. It frightened me. And then when I saw it again, don't get me wrong, I was still scared, but there was points that I was also doing a little bit of Mystery Science Theater 3000. Like making a few jokes along the way, only because of certain things that were 70s-esque.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But it still had that fear. Like you mentioned The Shining, I'll even say The Haunting. The house was a character, which is what, in The Shining, in The Haunting, in The Legend of Hell House, it's the atmospheric layout that they did, and this guy did it very, very well. I didn't realize he did Kolchak the Night Stalker.
Yeah.
I knew he did Dark Shadows. I watch the Night Stalker if I'm up Saturday morning or Sunday morning on one of the old like Me TVs. They show them
Sure.
like at 12:30, 1 o'clock. And I
Yeah,
love them.
yeah.
I absolutely
Great
love
stuff.
them.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Eric, what did you think? Was this your first time seeing it?
It was. This was my first time seeing it. I was very interested in the cast because,
Mhm.
well, I saw Burgess Meredith, so I was very
Sure.
excited to see, he was involved. I knew of Karen Black. I've only seen her in a couple things. And the lead actor, I think he was in Curse of the
Oliver Reed.
Werewolf.
Yeah, he is the werewolf. Yeah, Oliver Reed.
and I really liked him in that. Yeah, like John said, it's very dated, very 70s. You have that feel, but I think they do a really good job of keeping that tension from beginning to end. You have that
Mhm.
uncomfortable feeling. Something's not right. The
Mhm.
use of the score really helps that.
Yep.
And although I do think they probably could have chopped out maybe 20 minutes of it, I still think that
Mhm.
overall it's a pretty good spooky haunted house story. Like
Mhm.
this is something you would want to watch in the dark. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think that would actually help the
Mhm.
effectiveness
Yeah,
of
I
it being
agree.
spooky. Yeah.
And let's give a quick shout out because I'm hoping we do it later on. Being somebody who grew up with seeing an older version of Betty Davis in these type of movies,
I was gonna.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I've never seen a Betty Davis movie either. So
when she got older, she played the scary person.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It's nice to see her on the opposite side. I completely forgot she was in this movie, and when I watched her, I'm going, man, it was like a very nice acting class.
Yeah.
I loved her.
played it well.
I felt that Betty Davis pretty much stole every scene.
Yep.
I was like, wow. There was just an elevation in the quality of the performance or something. Like, I love Oliver Reed. I'm a huge Oliver Reed fan.
Yeah.
My experience with Oliver Reed, Curse of the Werewolf for Hammer, but also, and John, you might remember this, the old Three Musketeers with Michael York.
3 and 4 Musketeers, baby. Yep.
Sure.
Yep.
Faye Dunaway, Raquel Welch. Yeah.
Christopher Lee.
Yeah, Christopher Lee. Yeah.
And Charlton Heston.
Charlton Heston, yeah. So I think he was one of the Musketeers. I think he was Porthos. So I mean, just great to watch. I loved seeing him in Gladiator. It was just that I'm not a huge Gladiator fan. I have both versions on Blu-ray, just because to say that I have it, but I'm not like an enormous fan of it or anything. But seeing Oliver, I remember being in the theater. I'm like, holy shit, it's Oliver Reed. And, Oliver Reed comes with his own, sorts of stories, and so, he never broke into like, the big, time necessarily. I thought that, probably some of his demons prevented him from doing that. He was a huge alcoholic, unfortunately. And that's eventually what ended up killing him. But I remember this reminds me of an Oliver Reed story of of all the people to tell the funniest Oliver Reed story. It was Ozzy Osbourne. And Ozzy is telling this story. It's about the first time he met Oliver Reed. He said he's sitting in a bar and it's like the late 60s. And he said in walks Oliver Reed. And he goes, I didn't understand. He goes, you don't get this from seeing him in the movies or on the screen. He said he's a huge man. He said he's big. He's big like a bear. Like he's just enormous. So he walks over to Ozzy, and Ozzy's all tatted up. And I guess in the 60s, that could get you into a fight. Who do you think you are? Some kind of whatever. And so this big, enormous man comes up to him and he goes, oh, so you have a tattoo? He's like, oh, shit, here we go. He goes, he turns to him, he's like, yeah. He goes, oh, I have a tattoo as well. Would you like to see it? He's like, yeah, I guess. He said Oliver Reed pulled his fucking pants down and whipped out his dick. He had his dick had been tattooed. And even Ozzy was like, oh, Jesus, I don't want to see that. So Oliver Reed was even too much for Ozzy Osbourne.
Wow.
Oliver Reed, there's a story where Michael York talked about when they did the Three Musketeers and then the Four Musketeers together.
Yeah.
And one was Athos and the other was D'Artagnan. And he goes, there's a scene in the first one, the Three Musketeers, where they get into a fight. All the Musketeers get in a fight and they're stealing food.
Uh-huh.
And they're getting thrown over a spit. They're grabbing the chicken as they're flying through and, to keep that comical romp. Right. And he said that was based on the real story with the actors. Oliver Reed started a fight with somebody and they were ripping off food from the bar, off people's tables. And he goes, they threw that in because they thought it was hysterical. I mean, but there's times he's brilliant. You can sit and watch it. Him and Faye Dunaway in those scenes in the Musketeer movies were tense filled. But then you hear stories, he's like Richard Harris, where he's had a couple of drinks in him. And
it's like O'Toole.
Yeah, O'Toole. It's got that feel about it.
I remember when Letterman moved from NBC to CBS.
Yeah.
I think his first guest on there was Richard Harris.
Mm-hmm.
And Richard Harris was famous for going on to Letterman and telling a Peter O'Toole drinking story. Every time he went on, he told a Peter O'Toole drinking story. And, O'Toole would just he'd be so drunk, he would just fall off the stage.
Right.
And there'd always be some old woman in the crowd. Oh, God, O'Toole's drunk again.
Yeah.
So, he never got his due, unfortunately, Oliver Reed. But I did love seeing him in this. I thought this was a good movie. It definitely has a 70s vibe. It took about 30 minutes really for it to get started. But once it gets started, it kept me going. I think Karen Black is just terrifying to look at. I mean, no offense to Karen Black, but his wife is she's just scary. Like she looks like she's set in like a horror movie. And she has this facial structure that looks like too much Botox before Botox. I don't know exactly how to explain that. Oliver
she got
Reed,
that lion's. She got a lion's mane of hair too. That doesn't help.
Yeah, Oliver Reed, Betty Davis. You've got just a story of these people who, for one reason or another, want to rent this house. I guess for a vacation or a break or something like that. The people that are, owning that, the people that are, renting them the house, one of them is Burgess Meredith, who I thought it was interesting to see Burgess Meredith because this is the same year that Rocky came out. And yet he's played a completely different character. He's got completely different mannerisms. Here he's kind of oily. You can tell right away something's not quite right here. But I mean, this scene right here, it very much looks like the Kubrick scene from The Shining, where they're all in the car together, and it's like, see, he saw it on the TV, this kind of thing. It's the same sort of setup.
Exactly.
The catch with the house is that, it's too good to be true. They're offering that big house for the whole summer for $900. I guess the only catch is that, you have to take care of this old lady who, lives in the attic. called Mrs. Allardyce that nobody ever sees.
Right.
It's not a bad premise for a haunted house. I would love to see someone actually. This would be an interesting movie to remake.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, if you got a really good director and got a really good cast in there, you could do something with this.
Right.
Mhm. Yeah,
It's not
I was
bad.
very excited to see Burgess Meredith. He did a lot of stuff, you know, like this to get away from being the Penguin. You know what I mean? He's also in
yeah.
a movie. I think
Oh
next year,
yeah,
in the next year that came out, he was in a another haunted apartment complex type movie called the Sentinel, which
Yep.
also had like Jeff Goldblum stuff. You
isn't
find
that the
out
one
that
with Kirk Douglas?
you don't think Kirk Douglas is in it, but I know it's the one where a woman finds out that the one of the apartment complexes is like the gateway to hell type of
Right.
thing.
Oh, gee.
It's and if you've never seen Burgess Meredith, like you've
Mhm.
seen him in the Sentinel, so I was very excited to see him in this, and then the premise really got me. Like something's up if they have
Right.
to. The only catch is they got to take care of this woman. You know what I
Mhm.
mean?
Right.
So I'm like, okay, they make it pretty easy. You know that something's up with this
Mhm.
woman, and it being too good to be true, and just the way Burgess and the actress who plays his sister, they're wickedly evil, but they don't really emote it that much. You know what I mean? You
Yeah.
can just tell just by the way they look, little mannerisms that they do that they're trying to pawn this on somebody
Right.
for their own reasons. You can tell.
Yeah, they've got a
Exactly.
con going. There's some sort of hustle
Yes.
going.
Yeah.
Yeah,
They had
something's not
some
right
quirks.
here.
It had some quirks, like the way they treated the gardener.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The way
yeah.
when he came in and they started yelling at him and move this. I mean, it was one of my favorite jokes in the beginning when he turned around and said, the sister turned around and said, "Are you going to fix that mirror? There's a crack in it." It's not the only thing that has a crack in it.
Mhm.
It's like one of those. And it was funny because even looking at this picture now with Burgess Meredith that's on the screen, not going over the top or not doing overly facial expressions, he has a look like there's a screw loose. There's something.
The way he was
Listen.
looking out the window and peering at the young son playing on the
Yeah.
jungle gym.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, what is he? 7 or 8? He's 12. Oh, you know what I mean?
Oh.
And the thing about
Yeah,
Burgess
yeah.
is, like I said, a
Mhm.
lot of people know him from Rocky,
Mickey.
so he's got that gravelly voice. You know what I mean? Or he
Mhm.
does the same voice as the Penguin in the Batman TV show. He's got one of those voices though when he's not trying to be rough and gruff. He's got one of those voices that I don't think is like intentionally creepy. You know what I mean?
Right. Oh,
Like
yeah.
he would be a perfect narrator. Like he's the narrator in Twilight Zone the movie, and it just
Right.
it works because he's got that little uncomfortable sounding type of eerie
Mhm.
voice, and that's just how he normally talks. Like
Even
and
when
he's
he
just
was
so good.
younger. I mean, I remember seeing him in the first version of Mice and Men.
hmm
He was in that very young, but he still had that gravelly voice is the best
Mhm.
way to describe it. And it comes across that it gives you that edge type
Mhm.
deal. And I loved it in this because he was spinning around in that wheelchair looking half crazy
hmm
or half eccentric, I should say. But then all of a sudden when he sees the boy, oh, there's a child.
hmm
And all of a sudden you're like, oh, there's the creepy vibe.
Yeah,
Yeah.
something
You know.
you don't know exactly what the problem is, but it's definitely there. It's a
Right.
different because I'm sort of tempted to compare this to The Shining in that the family show up at the house, but everybody that you meet when Nicholson and the family,
Yeah.
they're the Torrance family. Everybody at the hotel is on the up and up.
Right. Yeah.
You meet Scatman Crothers and the hotel manager and the few remaining
Mhm.
girls that are leaving, getting everybody shipping out, and so you don't get a sense that anything's off.
Right.
Here you get a sense that get a sense that immediately something's off,
Yeah, right
and
away.
so the tropes
Right.
are a little on the nose.
Right.
Mhm.
There's no mystery to it. Okay, these people
Exactly.
are fucked up. Get the fuck back in your car and go back home.
hmm
And then it's sort of okay for a while. But the first thing that sort of caught my attention was when Oliver Reed suddenly gets the inspiration to drown his son in the pool.
Yeah. The fuck, man.
You're like, where the fuck did, like, that's what I mean. Like, it takes
Yeah.
about 30 minutes before something really starts to
Right.
happen. And the first thing that happens is Oliver Reed and his son are playing in the pool. And, you know, I guess he decides to sort of roughhouse, but it starts to be a bit much with
Right.
the roughhouse. And like, before you know it, he's like holding him under the water.
Mm-hmm.
And that
And
was a
you're like,
huge
oh,
shock.
shit.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's granted it's a shock
Right.
to begin with, but it was a huge shock because in that 30 minutes of buildup, once we leave Burgess and his sister, I
Right.
think they do a good job of making us like this family. You know, they're very quirky, they're very close. I mean, I love the
Mhm.
scene of when the dad can't get the machine to fill up the pool to work, and you know,
Oh, yeah.
son
Yeah.
kind of shows him off. You know, oh,
Yeah.
I can do it. You want to bet $5? You know, and they again
Yeah.
shows them off like that. Or when they come in and Karen Black's just like vacuuming the stairs and they're helping with
Right.
groceries and shit like that. They do a really good job of showing how
Mhm.
close and loving this family is.
They're a
I
normal
even-
family.
I even
So
loved it
when he's drowning his son
Yeah.
or attempting to drown, it's just one of those
Yeah.
like, where the fuck did that come from?
And again, even going back to Betty Davis when she was driving in a very casual conversation that she got her driver's permit
Mm-hmm.
and wanted to start. And they were laughing. There was an enjoyment with this family that you felt they were connected.
I loved Oliver Reed with Betty. I loved how he called her auntie, and they were
Yeah.
they had this little
And she
flirtatious
was
thing
te-
going on.
and she was teasing them.
Yeah, because there's
You
a scene
know?
where they're walking out of the room, and you see him smack her on the ass, type of thing, like
Exactly.
playfully. It's a lot of fun, and it shows like how
Yeah.
close this family is. And yeah, I just absolutely love
And
Betty
so
Davis
when
in
that
this movie.
happened, it came to me, Oliver Reed. One of the scariest things about that scene, besides the drowning,
Mm-hmm.
is when the son hits him with the diver's mask,
Yeah,
Yeah.
and he looks, and then you see him go like,
Right
Oh.
there.
like there, when he almost like he growls,
Yeah.
you know, and then it just slowly sinks away.
Yeah. Oliver Reed is really good at playing a werewolf. 'Cause
Yeah,
he
He's got a
probably was a
mean-
werewolf in real life. you
he's
know?
got
I
a
mean,
real mean looking face. He really does.
he does,
yeah.
and
Yeah, he can
that
go
got me
feral.
because it was almost like a crocodile, you know, an alligator moving away. All right, you got away, you prick. You know, and then the next scene, he's guilty about it and he's suffering over it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But right
Yeah.
there, I'm like, dude, if I saw you in the pool, I'd be beating you with the goddamn, you know, skimmer. Get away, get away from me, dude.
There's nobody who could have made that face better than Oliver Reed.
Right.
I was thinking that, you know, this isn't the greatest movie we've ever reviewed,
Right.
but it's
Right.
got some moments and it's got some really
Mm-hmm.
good shots
Yeah.
interspersed in it, and that's one of them.
Yeah,
That's one of them.
absolutely.
That shot of Oliver Reed with the blood flowing down his hand, coming out of his
Mhm.
nose, just sort of menacingly like moving away
Yeah.
from his son after he just tried to drown him. I'm like, yeah, that's perfect Oliver Reed. That's
Actually, I would,
perfect
if you were
Oliver
going to
Reed.
put like a little, I'm doing this. I'm sorry. If you can put like a little words under it and turn it into a meme, right under by the pool, you just put "just you wait."
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
because that's exactly what everyone I saw, that he has that look, and it's not Oliver Reed, it's the house or
Mhm.
the spirit of the house or whatever. But it was like, just you wait. You know, I'll get you, my pretty.
Yeah, I'll see you at dinner time, kid. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Something like that.
exactly.
Yeah. But like I said, you know, his the way, you know, we were talking about how Karen Black's a unique looking woman, but Oliver, he's just got an angry face. Like even when
Mhm.
you see him smile, there's something in the
Mhm.
you know behind those eyes that you know there's something like the gears are
Yeah.
turning. Like he's smiling for a picture, and then he says, "I'm gonna break that fucking camera after we're done," type
Right.
of thing, and that definitely helps in this whole movie with the way he is.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, and it adds to it
Mhm.
because then when he goes back to being normal, the energy levels down,
Yeah.
and the whole and you do feel sympathy for him
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
because you go like, you know, it's not like it was Jack Nicholson in The Shining, and I don't want
Right.
to keep making references to it, but when Jack started going over the edge, he never really came back.
Right.
You just saw him going, and Oliver keeps coming back.
Mhm.
you know,
I mean,
and trying to actually help.
and we've talked about this before with Jack. I mean, Jack Torrance was never a good guy.
Right.
Right.
You know,
Right.
he's not trying to stay sober. He's not being honest with his family. You know, he's just trying to white knuckle this thing. He's broken his son's arm.
Mhm.
You know,
Right.
that isn't this character. You know,
Right.
that isn't Oliver Reed's character. Oliver Reed is just, you know, a guy who loves his son, and all of a sudden, just out of nowhere, just seems to have had a psychotic episode.
Right.
The interesting thing about this is that you never figure out exactly what it is about the house. Whether the house
Right.
just possesses people and kills them to keep it revitalized, you know, so on and so forth. You know, Mrs. Allardyce, you never figure out that sort of mystery. But for this movie, it sort of worked because I almost kind of don't want to know.
Mhm.
Right.
Because the story isn't sophisticated enough to explain it.
Right.
And so there's some benefit here in not knowing.
Right. I
That's
agree
what I
with
was
that.
thinking. Yeah.
Less
That's
is
what
more.
kind of, yeah.
Yeah,
You know, I mean,
yeah.
I think that it would be less of a movie if they tried to,
Over-explain it.
over-explain it. They don't. It definitely, like I said, has a 70s vibe. It's not a huge budgeted movie. You can kind of tell.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, with what they did, I'm okay with it.
And I love the fact that it's a one location shot. None of it looks like a set.
No.
It's like I was wondering if they really got like they found a house like that and said, well, hell, why don't we just rent the house and fix it? You know,
I think they said it was shot somewhere in like Northern California or something like that. I did
Yeah.
a quick Wikipedia scan of it, and you know, it was shot like in one location. You know, and it is a creepy house because I mean, if you really think about it, Eric, you may not be old, you're not old enough to remember this, but houses that were decorated in the 70s were really fucking hideous.
Oh yeah.
Oh Jesus, those things were hideous with the velour and the you know, everything's just covered in that soft whatever, and yeah, it's just
shag carpeting, man. Shag carpeting.
Fucking awful. I remember recently I started watching Conjuring 3.
Okay.
And there's a scene at the very beginning, or within like they start to see something happen to there's a little boy in there, and there's a waterbed. I'm like, holy shit, I haven't seen one of those in fucking forever. I'm like, oh, that's definitely a fucking 70s trope. Or early 80s
I knew a few
trope.
people with water beds when I was a kid. Yeah.
Oh, geez. Yeah, they were always, you're like, okay, yeah, all right.
And
no
there's
problem.
something, and there's always something about, especially an older house. And this is like I said last week, I grew up in an old house.
Right.
That was built in like 1836. And I live in a town where there's Victorian homes that are on like the National Registry of the United States for preservation. And you'll be walking around a corner and all of a sudden there'll be like a little spot by a stairwell that all of a sudden somebody would be standing there to make sure you don't like walk into the door, and they scare the shit out of you because you're coming around the corner and you don't see them. Even when I'm like, did they build these houses to be spooky? You know? That's what I loved about this thing. The setting in this movie worked.
Yeah.
A lot.
Yeah. And it wasn't like, and we keep coming back to The Shining. The Shining was just so much open space. This feels claustrophobic.
Yeah, you're very confined.
It's a huge house in a huge house, but they give you a feeling that you know it's very small. Everything feels very small. You know, there's no freedom of movement.
This kind of popped in my head right now because it's like it's not just a house; it's a scary home.
Yeah,
you know, always home is where the heart is, or home sweet home is where you're safe. This is a scary home. It's has that feel of welcome home, die. You know,
yeah, it's kind of there's a feeling of menace.
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
I think they use a really good use of the shadows in this. A lot of these scenes are, you know, at nighttime in rooms and stuff like that, and that just adds to it. You know, and a lot of these, you know, scenes happen in bedrooms. You know, when Betty Davis passes and stuff like that. Like they do a good job, like you said, Mike, showing how claustrophobic it feels because you just see like Oliver Reed like
Mhm.
walking in and he's standing in the doorway, and then it cuts just to a close up of Betty Davis on the bed, and it's
Yeah.
in the dark. So that also helps, like you said, with the claustrophobia
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
the confined space.
Mhm.
Very close shots. A lot of
And
close
and,
shots.
and close shots means you have nowhere to go.
Yeah.
Like you can't escape. It's almost like you're cornered.
Let's get into that though. Let's talk about it. You know, at first I didn't, because I hadn't seen this since I was little. I didn't. My initial note in that they're not giving Betty Davis enough to do. That was my initial note. And
Mhm.
then she starts acting,
Oh yeah.
and you're like, "Oh, this is okay."
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, even the separate, like, I think Reed is a good actor, but you could just see like the performance level. Just, I'm like, "Oh, okay." You know,
Mhm.
I mean, I don't hardly have the Betty Davis collection, laying
Right.
around or
Right.
anything like that. But acting is acting, and like just that scene, because she's this, sort of loved aunt, who sort of lives with them all.
Mhm.
But she sort of quickly, once the shit starts to hit the fan, takes on this role as the, woman who's sort of fighting against her age.
Right.
And so, all of the disadvantages that brings.
Mhm.
And just that one scene where she's going up the stairs and she's winded trying to get to Miss Allardyce's room. And she's
Right.
like, come on, she's talking to herself. Come on, you can do this,
Right.
that sort of thing. It's a very simple thing, but
Mhm.
somehow watching her do it, I was like, wow, that's really fucking,
Mhm.
like, you just believe it.
Mhm.
You're like, holy shit, this is really, really good acting. Really good acting.
Yeah, like I said, this is the first time. Like if you know film, you know who Betty Davis is. You know what I mean. But this was the first time
Mhm.
I ever saw her in anything. We all know the song "Betty Davis Eyes." So this
Right,
woman
yeah.
has an
Mhm.
aura around her, at least when it comes to Hollywood. And
Mhm.
I enjoyed her performance in this so much, honestly, that I want to see
Mhm.
the other films that she's been in, just to see how she is in other roles.
There's no
Remember, I
shortage.
mean, remember they turned. She's the one who has the famous quote from the movie line. Um, what was it? Buckle up! It's going to be a bumpy night.
Yeah.
That was
Mhm.
delivered by a very young Betty Davis back in the day. She was also in Whatever Happened to Baby Jane.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's one
You know,
I've
she
always
was
had on
in,
my list.
but she's been in so many different movies, and she showed something which I kind of think is also the secret to this film that to me makes it work is that each time the characters are there, I think this is also like when the brother and the sister got excited that there was a boy because there were all this type of energy now in the house. You had the younger couple, you had the boy, and
Mhm.
the house started draining their energy. They were getting tired and getting weaker.
Yeah.
But Betty Davis, the way she was playing it, she knew it was wrong.
Yeah.
Mhm.
That's why when she said when she was climbing up the stairs, oh, come on.
Mhm.
Because she knows she had more energy than this.
Yeah. She's the first one to pick up on it.
And yeah,
Mhm.
she's the one that was more sensitive to it. And
Yeah.
I really loved it because we used to have a saying when we worked at Cape May Stage, and I've heard other people say it. When it comes to comedy, subtlety kills. Sometimes you need to be very broad to get the comedy across. But when it comes to drama, subtlety is sweet. And the way Betty Davis played that, those little bits here and there,
Yeah.
it was like it was a rich performance. If I was teaching an acting class, I would say go back and watch her again.
Yeah.
Because she's showing you exactly what to do with very little. It's a good
Yeah.
example of no small parts, just small actors.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Like that whole thing where Karen Black attacks her after the
Mhm.
incident with the gas in the son's room.
Yeah,
And
Mhm.
she didn't do anything, but
right.
she makes you believe, and like,
Yeah.
she didn't do anything,
Mhm.
but she makes you believe that she's actually starting to doubt whether she believes
Right.
she did anything.
Right. And that's
And I'm like, this
beautifully
is
done.
fantastic.
Yeah, it's beautifully done.
Yeah, she
with
starts
that.
to get confused because she can't articulate, because she starts to get agitated.
Right.
And it's this fantastic performance. And you
Mhm.
think about how good she has to be as someone in an advanced age
Right.
to act that.
Right.
Mhm.
Exactly. And
how
you actually-
powerful she must have been even at that age.
And you make the character has sympathetic too.
Yeah.
I actually felt
Yeah.
sorry for her because maybe she did do it, but it was an accident. You knew it was an accident, like type
Right.
deal.
Obviously, yeah.
But you're like, oh my God, Betty, you're breaking my heart. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like,
Type
leave her
deal.
alone. She didn't do
Yeah,
anything, man.
leave
you
her
know?
alone.
Yeah.
Leave Auntie alone is what.
Yeah,
that's what
exactly.
You
A real
college
treat for this
induced
movie.
freak.
I forgot she was in it. At first, like I said, I thought she didn't have enough to do, but the few times that she's in it, wow.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Wow,
She
it's
makes those minutes that she's on screen count. She really does.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, it's weird too, because like if for acting, you can see the 3 different levels of actors. I mean, it's nothing against Karen Black. I've always had a thing for Karen Black, but Karen Black reaches a certain level with her acting ability.
Kind of peaks. Yeah.
And then Oliver Reed is over her.
Yeah.
More experience when he's on. But then you get Betty Davis. Excuse me, kids. Whoop.
Yeah.
Hold my beer.
Yeah.
Let me show you how it's done.
Yeah, let me
Yeah.
show you how it's done. And you have the 12-year-old boy who just cries.
Yeah, that kid. Now he is a throwback to what I used to talk about the limitations of child actors.
Yeah.
Right.
Because he's just not like anybody could do that.
Right.
You know? And I would argue that maybe not anybody could play Karen Black's part because
No, you have.
it's her look that
Mhm.
does it. Really, it's her look. It's not necessarily the power of her performance.
Yeah. Michael, you're gonna get mad at me, but you were talking about if we were gonna redo this movie and remake it.
Yeah.
The part of Karen Black could probably be wonderfully played by Sydney Sweeney. She has that same. Now, Sydney Sweeney, I think, is a better actress than Karen Black was, but Sydney Sweeney also has that look. So when she starts aging,
no! Are you comparing Sydney Sweeney to Karen Black?
There we go.
Karen Black.
So we're having technical difficulties.
Oh,
Karen Black, for her time,
he didn't miss a beat.
that's why they used to hire her.
What time
Karen
was this?
Black was-
1872?
No, back in the 70s and the 60s. She was in a bunch of movies during the independent film days, and everyone said, oh, because she was built.
Wait, are you telling me that Karen Black was the it girl?
Or no, she was like the B grade it girl.
Ugh.
She
Or
wasn't.
the D minus.
She wasn't. Yeah. Well, that's the
Z
point.
level
And
it girl.
you're
There's
also
a
looking-
reason why
it's
Karen
also
did a
like
lot of
picking-
horror movies.
Well, no, it's also like if you picked up a 70s version, excuse my language for any children who may be watching this. If you pick up a 70s version of Playboy and look at the pictures, you can say, they thought this was pretty. It was back in the day. But that was the point. The point about it was some people did. She was at the pool. You didn't see her get naked. You just see
No,
the
you
dress
didn't
drop
want
and
to.
go. But that's the point. You do the same thing with Sydney Sweeney.
I
wanna
want to see
her-
Sydney Sweeney get naked.
And that's why you go and see her films. Now,
This
Sydney
reminds
Sweeney
me-
also has, but she's a better actress. But
Mm.
when Sydney Sweeney would age, like the Karen Black character would
Ugh.
age.
Come on, let's change the subject.
No.
You
She
just
would play
ruined
it
Mike's
better.
future.
Yeah, come on, man.
She would play it better. I
Yeah.
tell you, you watch.
Now put the drink down. I don't know what the hell you got in the cup, but put it down, will you?
Decaf, baby. That's what happens.
Oh God,
What was I
imagine
gonna
I'm on
s-
caffeine.
And James Avery playing Oliver Reed.
Who?
You know,
I don't know
what's
who
his
James
name? McAvoy. I'm sorry.
Because that reminds me of that fucking Speak No Evil trailer. Where I've seen the.
There
Jesus
you go.
Christ.
I told you
What was
you
I
were going to
gonna-
be pissed.
What was I?
We just got to find a Betty Davis. Oh, wait, we'll grab Meryl.
Why don't you
Streep.
put Gal Gadot in Betty Davis's role? Because obviously
There
that
you
would
go.
match too. While you're
No,
switching
Gal-
buttons on
Gal-
the sweater, there, Captain.
No, Gal Gadot plays Burgess Meredith.
Yeah, that's it. That's it. I don't know why I didn't think of that either.
You're welcome.
All right, so that brings us to the chauffeur.
Yes.
I'm not sure what the fuck to make of this guy.
William Defoe in the remake.
I was thinking he looked like James Woods. You look, you
Yes.
got that creepy James Wood smile. But I didn't know what to make of this guy. He was just a creeper for me.
I think it was something that the house was using to like pick up on like Oliver Reed's fears.
Okay.
Well,
You
remember
know,
when
this,
he,
that, and the
when,
other.
remember when Oliver Reed was talking to his wife, since I won't mention her name anymore. She, and he was saying about his mother's funeral,
That's
where
right.
he had some problems. And she
Mhm.
goes, but that was years ago. The house was, I think, going, like you were saying, going for their fears, going for the weaknesses to make them weaker.
Right, because didn't he have a nightmare and there was a coffin
Right.
that was being pushed by the driver?
By the driver, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
So he has that. It's almost a very nightmarish type character,
Well, yeah, I mean, like, almost like and here we go again with The Shining,
Right.
being able to pick up that Jack wants a drink,
Mm-hmm.
Right.
the house being able to intuit that, with the bartender, Lloyd.
Mhm.
Yeah,
You know,
he's
that
like the house's boogeyman type of
Right.
character.
Yeah.
And
I
you also-
actually found Lloyd to be terrifying.
Mhm.
I
Yeah.
thought it's just so still,
yeah.
and the way he does absolutely nothing, he just kind of stares at him, and he'll say
Right.
like two words, and you're just like, what the, and you can't tell if the house can't
Mhm.
like present, someone
Right.
who could do something more sophisticated,
Mhm.
Right.
or if the house is just keeping it minimalist,
Right.
that kind of thing. I found Lloyd to be like really scary in The Shining.
Yeah.
Right. Well, yeah, there was a style in the 70s, no joke intended, because when I was doing research on the movie, there was a thing on YouTube and they were talking about scary stories that involve a house from like the 70s. And there was, you have Amityville Horror. You have,
Ooh, that's a bad movie.
yeah,
Sweet
but
Jesus.
you were also talking about books at the time. This
Yeah.
movie here was also based on a book in
Mm.
the 70s, and some of them had similar themes. Like you're in the house and all of a sudden you're having bad dreams, and it's a way of affecting you.
Pop
They
fiction
also-
horror from the 70s was a thing, and a lot of those books were not very good.
Mm-hmm. Right. But that's the point. At the time, they were switching away from like the creature jumping out of the lagoon,
Yeah.
or Frankenstein.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until, no joke intended, I know we talked about this movie before, 1978, all of a sudden you got Halloween.
Yeah. Slashers.
You see,
We started
yeah,
getting slashers.
But that's the point. In between it,
Yeah.
you had like Willard, where there were rats,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
Jaws, where there was a shark,
Right.
or a house that was doing all these different things. You had nine.
All of these things with the non-tangible evil, kind
Right.
of spark either from Rosemary's Baby or The
Mhm.
Exorcist, and so I've always thought that there was like almost a decade-long hangover from those things where you got
Exactly.
The Omen,
Exactly.
not the Amityville Horror necessarily, because that was based on the DeFeo murders and that family's, but
Right.
it was it's in the ballpark. You get films like this.
Right.
And all different sorts of spin-offs. Oh, well, we've got a kid who's possessed by the devil. Well, what if the kid is the devil over here? Or the
Exactly.
house has the devil in it, or evil or something like that.
What if the kid's dating the devil?
Yeah,
no joke intended.
It's actually considering there is actually almost no villain throughout this film. It's really not that badly done.
No.
Exactly.
You never actually see the evil,
Right.
until you get to the very end kind of thing.
Right.
I was amazed after Betty. I remember writing this in my notes. After Betty Davis died, I'm like, why the fuck did Oliver Reed go back to that house? Like, I would have taken my son, put him in the car,
Yep.
and just drove the fuck off.
Yep.
And I'm like, I'll send cab fare
Yep.
for my wife if you want to show up. If not, I'll see you September 1st. When the
Dude,
lease
I
is
had
over
the-
with, we are out of here.
Dude.
I had the same fucking feeling at the very end of the movie.
Oh, why did you go back in?
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, first, everything that's happened, we'll jump ahead. Everything that's fucking happened in this entire movie, and then Karen Black decides, oh, let's go tell the little old lady that
We're leaving.
we're leaving her. You already made the decision to get the fuck out of there. Why do you have to tell this little old
Right.
lady that you're gonna leave? Leave send a note, a telegram, tell the
Mhm.
brother and sister, hey, we're leaving, go check on the old lady type of thing. Why
And
would
keep
you
the money
even just
fuck
go
off.
back in?
They even
Yeah.
had an excuse saying there was a death in the family. We
Mhm.
have to go now. You
Yeah.
know, I was talking, like I said, I saw it in the drive-in. I was with my two sisters who were older, and I think I was with Paul. You know, who was sitting next to me. Who was like 8 at the time,
Mhm.
my brother, and we were like, I remember my sister screaming at the windshield. Why the hell is he going back in the house?
Yeah.
Just go.
I think what
Doesn't
bothered
matter.
me.
She's on her own.
Remember when Oliver Reed tried to make a run for it, and he
Yeah.
keeps ramming the tree?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He keeps
Yeah.
ramming the fucking trees, trying to get out of there so badly with that station wagon. And he realizes his wife Marion has become a part of it.
Right.
Mhm.
And he accuses her. He's like, "You're a part of this now, aren't you? You know, like
Mhm.
you're in on this."
Right.
Yeah.
You know, and she gives him like this creepy fucking side eye. And I'm
Mhm.
like, holy shit, like this,
Right.
it still works. You know, 50
Right.
years, this movie's almost 50 years old. I'm like, that's pretty fucking creepy. But
Exactly.
eventually, you know, the boy almost dies. That
Right.
seems to shock her back into, you know, her senses.
Mhm.
But she's got to go and say goodbye to Mrs.
Right.
Allerdine.
Right.
And I got to tell you, she goes back up there and he's like, don't go, don't go, don't go. She
Right.
goes. He's waiting for her. He gets out of the car and he can't even tell his son because he's so scared that, you know,
Right.
what he's about to try to do. When he laid on that horn, I just watched
Yeah.
that. I fucking
Yeah.
jumped.
Right.
Oh, I was like, oh shit. You know, like what the, because it's just so silent.
Yep. Yep.
Mhm.
Yep.
It's just so silent. And you wouldn't think something as simple as a car horn would
Right.
startle you. But it
Right.
did. It startled me.
It was
Yeah,
it was a good jump scare that came out of something natural.
Yeah,
Wasn't
jump
like,
scares.
you know,
Jump scares are a good thing. I keep telling people, jump scares,
know,
if used properly, are a great thing for a horror movie.
and I'm sorry, him going up those stairs with each step, I'm going, turn around. Turn around.
Don't do it. Don't
Just
do it,
turn
Oliver Reed.
around, man.
We love you,
Just
man.
turn
Don't
around.
do it.
Don't turn around, man.
and,
It was just like, God damn, turn around.
and, you know, I thought it was really, it was just a really nice little touch.
Yeah.
By the time he gets to the top of the stairs, he is drenched in sweat.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
He is drenched in sweat.
Mhm.
And I remember the first time he
Yep.
goes up into that room
Mhm.
and spins that fucking chair around
Right.
and sees this.
There you
That
go.
scared the living shit out of me.
Yep.
She's got the white hair and everything.
Yep.
You're like, how the fuck did that happen?
Right.
Mhm.
Boom.
You know?
And that's pure
Evil.
evil. When you
It
know what
looks
happens,
like it
not to-
wants-
yeah.
Go ahead.
No, when you know what happens to Oliver Reed right after this, not to give it away, you know, for anybody, no spoilers, it doesn't surprise you that she's able to do it. That
Do
look on
you-
her face, that's not the wife.
Well, do you
No.
think she did it, or do you think Oliver did it to himself to try to get away?
I've
do you
debated
mean?
that
Wait,
for a
I don't
while.
understand the question.
He looks
Well,
like
well-
he's diving out the window as opposed to
Right.
being thrown out the window.
Oh, I
That's
got
what
the
I'm wondering.
impression he was thrown.
Okay.
See, so did I when I first saw it.
Mm-hmm.
But then the second time, when I saw it again, like even today, I went, I wonder if he dove.
I'm just wondering if he dove because you guys
Because he
you
was
mentioned
terrified. He
how
was so
scared he
scared.
was and how drenched he was from his sweat from
Right.
his fear.
And
And
there
then
was
he
a
sees what
chance
it's
he
done
could
to his
see
wife.
Karen Black naked again. He was
Yeah.
diving away from it.
This is Mike to jump out the
point-
window.
Yeah, but no, the point about
Ugh.
it was, I really agree with that, Eric, because I wasn't sure. Did he get thrown, or did he
Yeah.
dive out the window to get away from the horror of it? And he knew he would die,
Mm-hmm.
type deal. It's like the same thing to what happened to the boy afterwards.
Yeah, I
My
didn't expect
same-
that happening.
My same sister was going, just take 2 steps back, it'll miss
Yeah.
you.
Yeah,
You know,
move.
Move.
Yeah.
But he was terrified. He was
Mhm.
frozen in fear.
I loved how they even, but I loved, and I seeing it today. I loved when they show the shot of her hand in
Right.
the chair.
Mm-hmm.
It looks like a mannequin's hand.
Right.
Very
Like
safe.
it looks like a dead, like a cold fish, oily,
Right.
sweaty kind of thing. It doesn't look like a woman's hand.
Right.
Like you would think, like a woman's hand, it's kind of an elegant thing, a Hollywood
Right.
actress, it's going to be a beautiful. It doesn't look like that.
No.
It doesn't look like a human hand.
Right.
It looks like a mannequin.
It looks like a Karen Black hand.
Yeah, it looks like Karen Black. Yeah, it's exactly right. It looks like Karen Black.
Right.
And it even had I even love that when she gets out of the chair, you don't see, like, she kind of lunges at him hunched over.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you saw that. I don't know if you caught
Right.
that. When she gets out of the chair, she never straightens up. She just
Right.
kind of hunches over and comes at him that way.
Right.
And I'm like, oh, no.
Yeah.
No, that's not
And it
working
was
for me.
very well done. The buildup works on that.
Mm-hmm.
I
Yeah.
mean, that when she turns around, like you said, Michael, and it was the same thing, even watching it today, knowing what was coming, I felt like the hair was on the back of my neck standing up because I, knew it, but I was like, oh, God damn, that was, a very brilliantly put together scene to get the scare.
Yeah.
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 I love that. Really did. Love it.
Not the greatest movie, but it had some moments.
Man, it's a
It
moment.
did. It did have
It's
some.
not a bad movie.
No, it's
It's
not.
not a bad movie.
And as much as we're kind of picking on it, I was, excuse me, I was surprised at the ending.
Yeah.
What they did with the child in this movie.
Yeah.
The dad doesn't just jump or get tossed out of the window. He also
That's
lands
quite a graphic scene.
He
Oh,
lands on
God,
the
yeah.
windshield and he's bleeding through the windshield. The kid is covered in blood.
Right.
He gets out and he's running. And we made the jokes, because the chimney falls on him. He could have just moved, 2 steps to the right. But still, the fact that you killed a child at that age,
Right.
and it's just having something fall and crush him.
Right.
I did not expect that.
Mhm.
I honestly expected maybe the kid to get away and just be an orphan, call the cops type of thing. I did not expect
Or be
the
in a
house to
mental
take-
institution for the rest of his life. He
that too.
it
I
was
I
gone.
did not expect him to become a victim of the house as well,
I-
because of how young he was.
I think it was also the first time I was thinking about that today. I think it was the first time I've seen somebody hit the window of a car when I was a kid. Like I said, I was 11 when I first saw this. I had never seen a movie where that had happened. So when I saw the face coming through the glass, I was like, ah! It really startled me
Yeah.
at the time. Good movie, though.
Yeah. I mean,
Mm.
I was sorry to see that Julia couldn't make it. She had an emergency dental doctor's appointment that she had to.
Sorry to hear that.
Yeah, get to in the morning. So she was like, I got to get some rest tonight. I can't afford to miss
Mhm.
this. But
Yeah.
She's going to watch this and then complain about what we were saying about Karen Black. Because we were picking on her. You know she's going to get pissed.
she'll get over it.
Yeah.
Oh,
What did?
go ahead. No,
No,
go
go
ahead,
ahead,
Michael. I think I'm going to ask the question that you were going to ask. Go ahead.
No. I was going to start to wrap it up. Actually,
Oh, I was just thinking over the fact that there were also subtle things throughout the movie that really worked. I love the way the flowers. You first saw them, they were dead. And then Burgess Meredith turned around and said, take a look again and you see a growth. And then the flowers, are fully bloomed. But then when Karen Black was going to go upstairs to tell the lady goodbye, you see the flowers dying.
I missed that.
Yeah, there's a scene where she walks through and they're starting to go brown again. And they really did a subtle. I mean, yes, there was also some not over the top, but very blunt things where, like, the roof started pushing siding off.
yeah,
I like
Things
that.
like that.
That's cool.
But it's the subtle. But it was the subtle things that I'm going. It's showing you how the house is affected. The pool was another one. That the water was green and everything else, and then all of a sudden they come out and it's clean, it's clear.
Yeah.
It's
It's
that
feeding off
stuff
them.
really. That stuff really, really worked to set up the atmosphere. I felt.
And then at the very end with the pictures, you saw Betty Davis, you saw Oliver, and you saw the kid,
Yeah.
but you didn't see Karen Black in the
Right.
in the photo
Right.
collection. Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
Right. Which remains, it's
Right.
unresolved.
Mhm.
Exactly.
That's unresolved.
She's
that's
there
it.
till the next person comes.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. So did Kubrick borrow some of that from this film?
Could
I'm
be.
sure he did. I'm sure he
Yeah.
did.
I mean,
Even directors as good as Kubrick borrows from people.
Yeah.
You know.
Everybody
what's the-
borrows from everybody. Yeah.
Mhm.
What's the line? Good writers borrow, great writers steal.
Mhm.
That's
Probably, yeah.
I forget who said that once, but it's some people say that's kind of true. It's very atmospheric even without the words. So they set up the atmosphere perfectly
Mhm.
in this, and sometimes it missed, but sometimes when it hit, you were like, "Son of a bitch!"
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm watching this on a Thursday afternoon, and I got to shake the jitters off.
It's good.
Yeah.
Good sign. All right. Is there any part about this film that we have not discussed that you'd like to get into?
Well, I mentioned when it's used properly in the intense scenes, I thought the score was actually quite good.
Yeah.
Especially
Cool.
during the scene when Oliver is trying to drive through the tree.
Oh,
And
yeah.
That really helped
Yeah.
with the intensity, because you have him doing
Mhm.
that, the kids screaming, the rain. I don't think
Yeah.
we needed to see the actual tree grab Oliver by the leg. I think it was effective enough
Mhm.
without that type of spooky bullshit. But
Right.
I think the score helped a lot of the scenes.
Right. I agree with that completely.
All right. Anything else?
I'm
I
good.
like the fact. I mentioned the subtlety of different things changing, and I'm going back to Betty Davis. There's a scene she's with Karen Black, and when she said she has to go to a beauty parlor. And
Oh,
she
yeah.
points,
Yeah.
And she points to Karen Black and goes, "Oh, you looks like you have to go too," because she's starting to go gray. But then you see it's back.
Yeah.
It's things like that. I know we had mentioned it, but it's little things like that I thought really were added
or like,
to it.
like when Karen Black puts her hair up,
Yeah.
she
Mhm.
starts to, you
Yeah.
can see some aging.
Or the
going on with-
choker. The
Yeah.
choker around her neck and things like
Yeah.
that. I like
Yeah.
that.
Somebody cared about this. They cared about it.
Yeah.
It's cool.
Mhm.
All right, let's get to the part in the stream where we rate the film.
Right.
This channel has a rating system that goes from 0 to 5 up by halves. So 0, 0.5, 1, 1.5, all the way to 5. So 0, for example, would be I'd rather chew on a dirty sock than watch this film again, all the way to 5, which is this is the journey, this is the destination, this is it.
Mhm.
This is why I watch films in the first place. John, what would you
Okay.
give Dan Curtis's Burnt Offerings?
I'm going to give it a 3.5. I
Okay.
liked it a lot. It is even there's stuff that still stays. There's some stuff that it's 70s type acting that got me.
Right.
But there's some stuff that worked. Is it a great movie? No. But it's really, really good.
Okay.
So
All right.
I'm giving it a 3.5.
Okay. Eric, what do you got for us?
Yeah, I think I'm going to agree with John, 3.5. A lot of the acting is really good. They do a really good job establishing the mood, especially with the score. I wish there was more Betty Davis. Karen Black's just kind of there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Oliver Reed is really good. The kid, I don't like. I wish there was more Burgess Meredith. But you know what? Like John said, it's not a great movie. It's a good movie. This is a good spooky, have some friends over, watch in the dark type of film. On Halloween
Yeah.
time. It's a great movie to watch during spooky season. 3.5.
It is a good drive-in movie, as John said.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
It'd be a
true.
good drive-in movie. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So for me, I'm going to go with a 3.
Okay.
I think it's a good, entertaining film. I'd like to go higher, but there are certain parts of it that just have too many 70s kind of aspects in it for me.
Right.
Okay.
It's hard to put your finger on almost, but that's kind of the feeling that I get. I love the scenes with Betty Davis. You know, like I said, that's the highest level of acting that you see. I wish there was more of it.
Yep.
I wish they had given Betty Davis more to do. Even if you had seen less of Karen Black, you know, and more of Betty Davis, and then Karen Black just sort of comes on strong at the end.
Right.
You know, that kind of thing. That would have been cool. Oliver Reed is always great.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the kid is just the kid. It could have been any kid. It didn't really make a difference one way or the other. But not a bad film. Not a bad film. I'm glad we picked it. I'm glad we talked about it. Yeah, I mean, it's available on Tubi. It's available for free on YouTube. If you get a chance to watch it, you should.
It's definitely one I will revisit down the road.
Yeah.
Oh, and I completely forgot when Oliver Reed is cleaning up some of the tree branches and sits down and has a Coors.
Oh yeah. That's not that's method acting for Oliver
I'm
Reed.
sitting there going, here's the documentary. This is not part of the film. A cameraman just said, "Turn on the camera."
Yeah, it's in between takes.
Yeah. I did. I kind of. It made me laugh because I said I haven't seen Coors in a can in years. And that was old Coors too.
Oh yeah. All right, Eric, plug something.
YouTube channel. Hey, Internet, Eric here. Getting back into my interview series. Since the last time I was on here, I've interviewed 2 wrestlers, Brian White, and last night I interviewed Dr. Redacted. That's a lot of fun. I will have another wrestler interviewed on the 25th. I'm interviewing Kelvin Coco. Mike, I've mentioned him from when we've talked Windy City Pro Wrestling, you know, on the channel. And for movie wise, I've discussed a lot of crap that I will not give notoriety to. But the last really good movie that I discussed was Dracula, Prince of Darkness. I'm still slowly going through the Hammer universe. What I have planned coming up, lots of schlock, which I'm not looking forward to. But what I'm looking forward to is Train to Busan. I will be talking about.
Nice.
And Mike, you keep praising the original Let the Right One In, the foreign version.
Yes.
And then for you two guys to cleanse the palate of the crap, next month, the first 2 movies that I will be discussing will be Lawrence of Arabia for Mike, and then The Fisher King for you, John.
There you go.
Very nice.
Never seen them before, and I'm very excited.
You're in for something. Good for you. For you. Kudos. All right, John, anything you want to plug?
I have literally been cornered by 3 different people. A couple months ago, I had mentioned I was going to start a podcast. That a friend of mine had all this equipment. And once I got all the equipment up and got it to work, he said, "Oh, wow, thank you." And he started his own podcast. And I'm like, well, it's your stuff. I'm not going to complain.
Mm-hmm.
I've literally had 5 people walk up to me in the past 48 to 72 hours and said, "You really need to do your podcast and bring back Johnny Wawa." And Johnny Wawa, you can actually look up on Google because there's still some of the Johnny Wawa writings that I used to do, which are 20 years old now. The first one I did was 20 years last July. And someone said, you should really bring it back and do it like Prairie Home Companion. So there's a really good chance I might become the South Jersey Garrison Keeler in the next 2 to 3 months.
Okay.
If that happens, I will let you know.
Nice.
Yeah. Let us know. You should do that. As far as I'm concerned, everybody that's in that texting group should have their own channel.
Mm-hmm. We've all got a lot to say, and like I said, it's not that. I mean, it is, but it's really not that hard to have your own channel. All you need is an email if you want to do it video like this, or you just need an email and a phone. You can talk into your phone. There's an app I use with my buddy, and we just upload it there, and it just distributes it everywhere. So,
Eric, I got a question. Actually, I got a question to ask both of you because you're both doing interviews, type deal. If you had an outside shot to do a 10-minute interview with somebody, who would it be? Like Eric, which wrestler would you like to really interview?
Oh God.
To me, like I would like to spend 10 minutes to talk to Ric Flair.
No,
No joke
I-
intended. Somebody of that caliber.
I would, but I probably wouldn't be able to get a word in edgewise as great as you know who I would
True.
like story wise. I've heard them all, but I would love to talk to Jake the Snake Roberts. I bet you.
Oh, he'd be interesting. I
He
like
would be a lot of fun. Now, if the person is no longer alive, wrestling wise, I think Roddy Piper or Randy Savage would be great interviews.
There you go. I'm always curious about that because I know you do wrestlers, and I love the wrestlers that you find.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I was always wondering what it would be. You know, well, if you had a chance, which one would you do, or which one would you want to highlight?
Mm-hmm.
Type
Definitely
deal.
those guys.
At
What
this
about you,
point,
Mike?
For me, as strange as it might sound, I probably want to talk to Triple H.
Oh, cool.
That's a good one.
He's gone all the way from just being the sort of lowly Hunter Hearst Helmsley
Yeah.
to running
man.
the biggest wrestling promotion in the world.
Yeah.
At
ain't
a
no
time
joke
of
intended,
very
the
high
man.
controversy, it becoming a publicly traded company
Mhm.
worth billions of dollars. The McMahons have been pushed. You know, I mean, he's sort of a McMahon, kind of, sort of, because he married the boss's daughter. But it's very much become his promotion now.
Yeah.
You know, as head of creative, I'd love to pick his brain. I'd love to pick his brain.
You know who I'd actually love to interview if I had a chance? Only because I just saw an interview that somebody else did, and I want to spin off that. Paul Heyman.
Oh yeah.
Oh sure.
He would be somebody because I didn't realize how much of ECW he was involved in either.
Oh my God, he was ECW. Yeah,
Well, that's
Yeah,
the
he was
point.
the
I
owner.
used to go and watch ECW at live
yeah.
in the ring and stuff like that, and I would see him and I'm going, "Oh, he must be in the background there to bring it." Never realized that was him.
Yeah, that was him.
But he was, I mean, somebody who's been around that long and has watched the changes.
Since he was like 14 or 15, he was taking
That's-
pictures at ringside and sneaking back backstage, taking pictures of wrestlers. Yeah.
That would be somebody I would be interested in seeing. You know, somebody who has seen it for like 50 years. No joke intended.
Yeah.
To watch that change. Because that's how long I pretty much have been watching wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
Is about that same time period.
Yeah.
You know, something like that. That would be cool. Also, no joke intended because we pick on him a lot. If I had a chance to talk 10 minutes with William Dafoe, you know, type deal.
Mm-hmm.
That as an actor, just to have,
Oh,
because he's
I was
in
like,
everything.
He's not a wrestler.
No, that's what I mean. I mean, well, you also interview directors and actors and things
Yeah.
like that. I would love to have a chance to talk to William Dafoe for 10
Sure.
minutes, just because
He's
of all
done
the
everything.
stuff he's done. He's been like 4 or 5 movies this year. Like I didn't realize he's in Saturday Night, the movie about the first episode of Saturday Night Live.
Yeah, that comes out this weekend.
Yeah, he's the NBC
That's awesome.
executive.
And he's in Nosferatu coming out in December.
Yeah,
Yeah, he's
and
the
there's
Van
another
Helsing
A24
character.
movie that I just saw because I get like their press releases. He's in that too.
Yeah.
There's people that are writing on it. A24 should just say the William Dafoe Studio, and I'd be happy. You know,
He stays busy.
he stays
Yep.
busy.
Good for him.
But something like that, I would love to. You know, I would love. He would be somebody that'd be interesting
Sure.
to talk to.
Well,
I have no
I'll-
idea why I brought that up, but I had to ask you because you guys have done so many interviews now.
Well, I'll say this, John. If you ever decide to get into podcasting and do interviews, all it takes is a email or a direct message, and
Yeah.
you know what? The worst they can say is no. Lots of times, at least I could tell you from experience with these
Mm-hmm.
independent wrestlers, if it's something you're
Yeah.
interested in, 9 times out of 10 they'll say yes. You know, because they also want to promote
Mm-hmm.
their stuff too. So
There you go, baby.
For this channel, I'd like to come back next week and continue haunted houses and ghost stories. And we'll talk about it. I've got some ideas. I actually wouldn't mind looking at The Conjuring.
Wow.
I have to see, you know, if we can get a panel for that, because that is a great haunted house. The original Conjuring is a fantastic haunted house story.
yep,
I mean,
There
it's
you
just
go.
not a ghost. It's not a ghost.
right.
That's infesting that house.
Right.
I myself have have a really big interview coming up on October 30th. And I'm going to be interviewing someone outside the realm of film or anything like that. I'm going to be interviewing Father Calvin Robinson. And if you know who Father Calvin Robinson is, you know that he is he's an Anglican priest and a conservative political commentator who had to move from the U.S. and relocate now to from the U.K. to the U.S. Due to increasing issues and things that are happening there in the U.S. I had a sporadic sort of back and forth with him in some comments. He responded, and then, a couple of DMs, he replied, and then, I sort of asked, and we've been able to put that together. So
Very cool.
October 30th, that's going to be that's going to be a great interview. I'm very much looking forward to that.
Good for
Are
you.
you arguing with the church again?
No, not at all. No, not at all. If
Being
anything,
smart.
huh?
I'm being a smart ass. I'm sorry.
No, yeah, no argument from me. If anything, I'm agreeing a lot with what he has to say. He's quite prominent if you get a chance to look it up.
All right, cool.
So that will be a big thing. I would like to be back here next week with The Conjuring, though. We'll see if we can put it together. That's it for me. That's it for this episode. My thanks to Eric from Hey Internet. Eric here. My thanks to John K. Alvarez, just burnt baby. We will see you all in the next video. All right, take care, everyone. God bless you.
Peace.
Bye-bye.
Cheers.
Hey, everybody. This is the American Werewolf. Thanks for stopping by. Like the video. Leave a